Hey, it's Aaron. Today I want to talk about the classic car show that happens every year in Gering, Nebraska. I haven't been for a couple of years, so it was nice to go back this year and check it out. It's held on Father's Day weekend every year, so this year it was on June 14th. They have a Friday thing that's like an ice cream social, and then Saturday there's the actual car show. So if you don't know, Gering is in Nebraska. Near Gering and Scottsbluff are kind of the same town. They're right next to each other. I live in Cheyenne, so this map shows you where I live and going to Gering up there. It's about an hour and a half, give or take. So if you know Tim from Pickup Truck and SUV Talk, he lives up there in Gering, Scottsbluff. So anyway, I went up to the show and I started walking it right about opening time. Opened about 10 a.m. And the first thing I saw was this Ford CE. So this is a guy who's there pretty much every year. He calls this his hot rod hauler. So you can see it's a Ford CE truck, a semi-truck with a car haul and trailer that he has put all of his hot rods on. It's a very cool display. It's, like I said, it's there every year. It's really neat to see it. This is a really cool thing. Next up, just down the lane from there was this Woody. I love these Woody wagons. They're one of my favorite things. And here you go with this very beautiful rendition. Now it isn't original. It's got some changes under the hood and other things. It's a little bit hot rodded, but the bodywork and everything are just beautiful on this thing. And then we come to what most people think of when they think classic Camaro. This one has a beautiful paint job. I love this look. It just looks really tough and cool, I think. I really like the look of it. So next up was a big surprise. I did not expect to see one of these. This is a Subaru van. It was imported. They never sold these in the US. This is from, I believe it's 1996 was the year, but you can see it's right-hand drive, and these are super popular to people that can get a hold of them. These are super popular in the Northwest. This one is actually plated in Nebraska. It's from Gering, where the show was actually, and you can see in this photo, here's the engine underneath in the back. Very neat design, very, very just kind of cool. Then one of my favorite cars is the Hawk. Now this one is a Packard, so it's after the Studebaker sold to Packard, and Packard started making several of their vehicles under their own name. But the Hawk is just super cool. I mean, it was on my business card for a long time, a tail fin just like this one. Really, really neat. From the front, they have that very unique look that you will only, as soon as you see it, you know it's a Hawk. Really, really cool cars. And the older guy sitting in it wasn't very talkative, but he did giggle when I told him that, you know, doesn't matter who you are sitting in this car, you look sexy. Next to that was an often overlooked car. This is the Ford Maverick. Now, today the Maverick is a pickup truck, a compact truck. But back in the day, it was kind of Ford's answer to the Chevette, and it's set in the lineup just ahead of the Pinto in size. It would eventually get replaced with what would become known as the Escort. But this is a great little car. These were super cool. It was the 70s, there was an oil crisis, and the car makers were trying to figure out how to compete with the Japanese imports. A couple doors down from that was another Studebaker. I love these things. So this is the Studebaker, what's the name for it? The Studebaker Hawk, but it's Gran Turismo. So this was like a gentleman's Studebaker Hawk, right? This was a slightly higher class vehicle. You can see it's much more refined looking, just a really neat looking car, really pretty period car too. Just down from that was this Trans Am. This Trans Am is the early 2000s. I believe this one's a 2001. The early 2000s, the sport car makers American car makers were trying to figure out how to make cool looking muscle cars. And for the most part, failing. But this was not a failure. So it's a far cry from the kit car Trans Am before it, and from the kind of Smokey and the Bandit era. It was looking back to that Smokey and the Bandit era and trying to recreate it for the early 2000s. And I think they did a pretty good job. I really do like the look of these cars. Next up is a Monte Carlo SS. So this was it's a little earlier than that Trans Am by about, I think it's 10 years maybe. This is an 80s model. So 88, 87 or 88 I think is this one. At this time, Ford was making the Fox body Mustang. Everybody was trying to figure out where to be. The Monte Carlo had always had this sort of look, and they just sort of carried it forward with some late 80s, early 90s flair, right? Now we're just going to jump back in time. This is an awesome car. Everybody was pretty much making a car that looked like this. This is the Dodge Business Coupe, I think was the name of it. This was kind of indicative of what these vehicles looked like at that time. There was a Chevy version, there was a Ford version. Pretty much everybody was making something like this. The difference being that Dodge was making it with this grille. This is so pretty. Really, really cool. Surprisingly, there was an MG at the show. When you think of a midget, this is it. These are iconic. Everybody knows when they see them. They're often confused for the Alfa Romeo at the time that looked the same, which was made famous in the Dustin Hoffman movie, The Graduate. It's, the Mrs. Robinson car that he drove around. These are often mistaken for that, but they're not the same. So it was really cool to see one at the show. I did not expect to see something like this. And it was kind of packed in the back with a bunch of one-offs, a bunch of cars that were kind of like last-minute entries or something. But you can see the interior, it's had a little bit of work, but it's pretty much original. That's definitely the original 8-track in there. That was, the seating the stereo speakers are new, but the seating upholstery is period. If it's not original, it's at least period to the car. Very cool to see this one there. And then we come around to what for me is classic Mustang. So when you talk about Mustangs, a lot of people will have a period of Mustang. So they'll have a generation of the Mustang that is theirs. For me, it's this one. It's the Mach 1. These are very, very strong, sporty looking, very Mustang cars. But next to that, which you probably saw in the background, was one of my favorite vehicles of all time, the Jeepster. So this one was in this kind of cool orange-pink color. It had the rag top totally intact. It's not original to the car, I'm sure, but it's very cool. And yeah, the Jeepster. This was a Willys attempting to move out of the we just make 4x4 off-road stuff and into the everyday road vehicle arena. It didn't do terribly well, but now they're extremely collectible. So it doesn't have the kind of off-road that you could do in any of the other Willys products, and it doesn't have, it wasn't known for anything, and the styling at the time was a little bit quirky with all those squared edges and octagonal whatevers, but it's a very, very cool vehicle. You don't see a lot of them, and it was really cool to see this one at the show. Next was a surprise. I was just walking down the row and I was like, holy crap, is that a Nissan Laurel? And sure enough, I don't think these were ever sold in the US. As far as I know, they were not. This one, this is not an old car by most of our standards, but it's a beautiful sedan, and looking at it and looking at the, under the hood and everything else, he cleaned it up, but this is clearly somebody's daily driver. This was a very cool thing to see because it's just so out of whack for a car show like this. The next is the Roo van. So this Dodge van this guy got, he'd only bought it a couple months before the show, and then he towed it home a few weeks before, and he threw on a bunch of stuff to make it mostly road legal. So the LED headlights are an addition, the wheels and tires, etc. But he said it runs and drives, and it ran and drove when he bought it, and then he just slapped some stuff together to kind of make it road legal. Other than that, he hasn't done anything to it yet, and he doesn't think he will. Next is a flashback to my childhood. So this is the Bonavville Wagon in the GTO format. Now, these are an oddball because you could buy them from the factory with all of the GTO stuff, but you couldn't get they didn't sell the badging and everything else with that. It was just underneath the skin was the GTO stuff. You could order it as a package like that. And then dealerships would add the badging and other things if you asked for it. This one looks like it is a factory dealer original like this. So very cool to see. The paint is clearly not original, and I don't think the wheels were either, but the chrome and everything else looks like it should look. I've seen this car several times. It's one of my favorite things at this show because I never see it at any other show. Now, another oddball. This is fun. So this is a Morris Minor. These were kind of the affordable, cool European car of the day, so 1960s. These were popular in cities and with women drivers. These were really cool little cars that I don't think they produced very much. I think they were around like 90 horsepower or something like that. But they were really neat little cars, and you can just look at it. It's just that quirky kind of cute, neat look and 100% practical. Speaking of practical, this Bronco is there. I see this at the show every time I go there. The guy who owns it, Ed, he's a really cool guy. This is just it's clearly modified. It's totally impractical at this point. It's been lifted and all that stuff, but it's just really cool. The paint job is cool. The whole thing just oozes cool. This guy lives in Torrington, Wyoming. Pretty neat to see it. Now, next up is something you don't see very often. So the F100, you see those pickup trucks all the time. In fact, the orange or the blue and white to the left of this one was a regular F100 and the same year, if I remember right. This is an F100 panel van. So this was made as a van rather than a pickup truck. It's basically a delivery vehicle. But really cool to see it, and the guy didn't go nuts trying to hot rod the thing or any of that. It just looks really, really cool. And then to kind of wrap everything up, this is at the show pretty often. This is a Model A. I believe it's Model A. It might be a Model T. Oh, no, wait. It's a Model T. It's a Model T that's been made. It's called the Entertainer. It's got a pipe organ in the back. It's got that kind of outlandish big, squeeze horns on the side. Got a lot of it's a parade vehicle, and it's very, very neat. I see this pretty often, and it's pretty cool. And it was right next to a long lineup of Corvettes. The Corvette Club, always a big part of this show. There's a large Corvette Club in this area, and so this is just a handful of the ones that were there. There was a matching row across from these, plus period Corvettes just scattered all over the show. So the Gering Father's Day Classic, really cool show. I always enjoy going there. It's always a lot of fun. This was a good one, and yeah, there's pretty much every year there's somewhere around 400 cars there. So very cool show. This is just a smidge of what was there. I didn't include all of the Impalas and the Rat Rods there's just a ton of really great things to see at this show. So, all right, there you go. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.